Marine Major John Ruwako was getting ready for another Iraq deployment in 2005 when he hanged himself, leaving his wife wondering what could have been if he had just asked for help instead of being afraid people would think he was weak.
He had suffered injury in combat, and he had also suffered from depression and let it go untreated for years. And because of that, he's died today.
7 years later, active-duty military suicides are surging. So far this year, there's been an average of nearly 1 suicide per day, the fastest pace in a decade of war. More American service members have killed themselves this year than have been killed by the enemy in Afghanistan, about 50% more. It's not a surprise to a retired Army general who is now a psychiatrist.
It's a sign of, in general, the degree of stress that the Army has been under over the 10 years of war.
The reasons for the sharp rise in suicides are unclear, with studies pointing to combat exposure, post-traumatic stress symptoms, and financial problems, among others. Years after John Ruwako was too ashamed to seek help, many troops are still hesitant to admit they're having troubles over fears it will hurt their careers. The Pentagon has tried to change that culture.
Whether it's pushing a button on a telephone, knocking on the chaplain's door, or texting your team leader, help is readily available.
But earlier this year, a top Army commander said he's fed up with soldiers who commit suicide. Major General Dana Pittard wrote on a blog that it's an absolutely selfish act, saying they should instead act like adults and deal with their real-life problems like the rest of us.
There's the conversation that they're giving troops about, come forward, get help. Help is a strong thing to do. But then there's the underlying true life responses sometimes, with people viewing it or making comments about it being a weakness, or somebody who's just trying to get out of duty, or somebody who's dropping their pack and leaving other people to pick up their messes.
As the Afghan war winds down, the suicide numbers may not, because the stress of 10 years of fighting is not going away.
We're going to see probably, unfortunately, a good number of suicides. We're going to see a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol. We're going to see all sorts of other indicators of misconduct.
For survivors like Kim Ruwako and her boys, it means even more families will share their heartbreak. Sagar Meghani, Associated Press, The Pentagon.